Not quite sure how prestigious these awards are. I know Mohamed Salah picked up the Football Writers Award this week. This might not be up there with it, but let's have a look at Don Hutchison and myself and what we've done with regards to Player of the Year, Manager of the Year, Surprise of the Year, and Flop of the Season. Let's start with Player of the Year. Now, I don't know who Don's going with. Now I do. Okay, Virgil van Dijk. I've gone for the obvious one, just because I think Virgil van Dijk's probably the only one that you couldn't go against Mohamed Salah with. You could argue Alexander Isak, maybe Declan Rice, but you're just looking for alternatives to the obvious here, aren't you?
Yeah, you'll have heard of an American term called force multiplier. Basically, what that means is a guy who can improve everyone around him, and that's what Virgil's done, not just this season, but seasons gone by. He's improved Gravenberch this season is playing as a number 6. He's improved Trent, Canate, Andy Robertson. Alisson's Alisson, so he probably does need to improve him. But in terms of the player that Liverpool can't afford to be without, and Salah will put his hand up, and you're right to mention him, because his 28 goals and the amount of assists that he's had have been absolutely priceless for Liverpool. But I just look at Liverpool and I just think there'd be half the team without Van Dijk. I just think he's an absolute leader. He's class on and off the pitch. He slows things down when needed. He heads it. He boots it. He runs dead fast. He can score the odd goal. But I think everyone around him, when they see Van Dijk, and that includes all the fans on the terraces and around the world watching Liverpool, they feel that little bit more calm when he's in the 11. And he's a world-class centre-back. I'll go as far as to say he's been the best Premier League centre-back of all time.
I remember commentating on him in the Eredivisie for ESPN when he was at Groningen. And you kind of thought, my God, this boy's a threat going forward. Didn't really defend too much, and they conceded a lot of goals, but he was a Rolls Royce of a player. Went to Celtic, did so well, Southampton, Liverpool. Brilliant player. You take out Van Dijk from that Liverpool side this season, or you take out Salah, just one. Who's been the most important for them to be 12 points clear of Arsenal as we speak? The 28 goals of Salah, or just Van Dijk and his organisation at the back?
Well, when you look at the raw numbers, you'd have to say Salah, because how many points has he got Liverpool this season, and how many times has he got them over the line and scored important goals? So I get it. I get it's Mo Salah, and I'm probably in the minority, but I just watched Virgil van Dijk, and I watched Liverpool last week when they played Brighton without him, and they shipped in 3 goals, and it could have been more. They're just not the same side when Van Dijk's not in the team. I think Kanate's a better player when he's got Van Dijk alongside him. Kwanzaa's another player who, when he looks to his left-hand side, he sees Rolls Royce of Van Dijk, and he settles everyone down. Like I said, Gravenberch might not have been the same player without Van Dijk just behind him. So he's been a revelation playing in that holding midfield role. But I get it. If everyone's shouting at the screen, it's Mo Salah, I would buckle and I'd absolutely give you that. But my standpoint is Van Dijk. I just think, as I said before, I think he's been the Premier League's best ever centre-back. And I think he's so important to Liverpool on and off the pitch.
I just love the fact we're talking about 2 players, one's 33, one's 32, and they're still performing to such a high level. So look, these are all subjective. Mohamed Salah has been magnificent this season. He really has rolled back the years, but so is Virgil van Dijk, and it's hard to argue against Don's point. When he doesn't play, they look nothing like they are. So that's who we've gone for our players of the season. Now, look, we both had Arne Slot for manager of the season. I was told, look, Don's gone for that. Any chance you could change it? So my first thought was Arne Slot. I've changed it to Eddie Howe just so we can get some sort of...
You've buckled!
Well, you've been there, done it, and worn the T-shirt in football, and I just talk rubbish for a living. So I thought, out of respect and due deference for you, that, I would give it to Eddie Howe for this one, even although Arne Slot should probably be the manager of the year. It's hard to argue against Arne Slot. What's been the most impressive thing that he's done in his first season in charge at Liverpool?
Well, I think it's his personality. I think off the back of Man United struggling with Eric Ten Hag, and sort of seemed to struggle getting his message across, and was quite dubious in the press conferences that he was giving. His team were great 1 minute, trust the process the next, and they were losing games left, right and centre, and he wouldn't tell you the truth. I think Arne Slot's personality shone through. I think he's very likeable. I think the media have took to him straight away. The most important thing is the Liverpool fans have trusted him. He's a bright manager. He's a bright coach. Off the back of what Jurgen Klopp left behind, why would he try and implement a different style so early on? You might see that this summer with the signings that he makes. Liverpool might be a different team altogether next season when he puts his stamp on things with a different style or different personnel or, different formation. But I just think it's the way that he's handled it. I mean, how many times have you seen a manager come in, very, very few, and win the title in their first year? I mean, very few, a couple. If that, I think maybe it's Conte or maybe Ancelotti, but there's very, very few that have won a title in their first year and romped it, by the way, because the last 4 or 5 weeks, all the lads, including Arne Slot's been on a boat in Ibiza celebrating. So, absolutely credit to him for letting that little bit of hair he's got down and enjoying yourself and just sacrificing some performances for the greater good of what the players need. And the players need a rest. They need to wind down. The title's been done for a long time. Pointless trying to go for another 7 or 8, 9 points a couple of weeks ago. Doesn't really make any difference. Let these players wind down and enjoy a summer off and get them geared up and ready again for next season. But I just think it's his personality, the way he's handled absolutely everything, and he hasn't changed too much apart from being a fantastic manager.
I remember being in Pittsburgh and doing Arne Slot's first interview on ESPN. Liverpool played Betis in a pre-season friendly, and after correctly getting him to pronounce his name, because that's just out of respect, the kind of feeling I got from the interview was there was still a lot of talk about Jurgen Klopp. It was Klopp's team, and he was coming in and whatever. No one's talking about Jurgen Klopp now, as far as Liverpool's achievements this season. Arne Slot didn't do that because of Jurgen Klopp. He did it because of what Jurgen Klopp had left, but he did it his own way. And the narrative has totally changed now. Jurgen Klopp's still spoken about, of course, and always will be for what he did at Liverpool. But this was Arne Slot's tactics. This was Arne Slot's team and his formation and everything like that. So for me, that's the biggest compliment that you can pay. Now, if it wasn't Arne Slot for Manager of the Year, and because you'd already gone for him, I wasn't allowed to go for him, Eddie Howe, if Newcastle beat Everton, they're 9 points better off than last season when they finished 7th. I thought his tactics were brilliant in the League Cup final against Liverpool. He's got silverware back. This has been a year of the underdogs. Newcastle beating Liverpool, winning that first domestic trophy since the 50s. And he's done a great job. And if he can get them back in the Champions League, he's certainly in the conversation as well.
So he should have probably got that. He should have probably got that a couple of years ago, Eddie Howe.
Maybe.
That's a title he should have won years ago when he dragged Newcastle from being in the bottom 3 up to mid-table, and the season after got them in Champions League football. The job that he's done has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and you've got to remember as well, last year, 7th, they were playing Champions League football. It's very difficult. Villa did well this year to still be competing for Champions League next season in the Champions League this season. So I just wanted to give him a wee mention because of the job that he's done. And you're right, if they can get Champions League again, if they can beat Everton, players won't want to leave St James's Park, but players will want to.
And Nuno deserves a little mention, the job that he's done.
Well, okay. Surprise of the season. Let's see what we've gone for here. You can have your Nuno moment here, but I've not gone Forest because there's no other answer. If Forest get into the Champions League, and they still might, Forest has to be the answer here. But right now they're going to be playing Conference League football and they're in the playoffs because they're 7th. They may still beat Chelsea. They've fallen off a little bit. They haven't kept a clean sheet since April. They've been brilliant though. And yes, they've been a surprise. And that was my first thought. But I'm not going for them. I'm going for Palace because of their FA Cup win against Manchester City, because of their away form and not conceding goals. I think they've been outstanding. But Forest and Nuno, talk to me about the positives and talk to me about the negatives that have happened over the last 7 or 8 weeks.
There's no negatives. There's no negatives. I mean, where they've come from, they finished 4th bottom of the Premier League last season. 4th bottom, to get potentially Champions League football where they've been all season. The only thing is just the teams in and around them have hit unbelievable form. Newcastle have been in great form. Aston Villa, as I said, 1 loss in 9. Man City, unbeaten in 9. The teams in and around them have hit top form where they've had a few draws along the way, the odd loss, a couple of losses on the spin that might have hurt them. But, I'm a romantic, and on your Palace one, the romantic in me would love to see, it'll be a touch of class. It won't happen, but I'd love to see Arne Slot and Liverpool give Crystal Palace a guard of honour at Anfield.
A double guard of honour. It'd be like a Six Nations match at the end where everyone's
amazing. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Just applauding everybody.
Boys. Yeah, but wouldn't it be amazing? All the Liverpool boys just clapping Crystal Palace onto the pitch for their first ever trophy. Be amazing. But I'm going to go for Nuno. I'm going to stick with Nuno.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Look, I'm just looking for something against the obvious because for Nottingham Forest this season to have done what they have done with, on so many occasions, less of the ball, he's done a brilliant job. He really has. And I know we had some sort of kind of statement from the football club about why the owner was on the pitch. That just soured things a little bit. Nuno has done a brilliant job at Nottingham Forest. And personally, I hope they do get into the Champions League next season. And if they do, then Palace would be second and Nottingham Forest would be up there. Now, I know we're nearing the half hour, the end of the show for ESPN FC Live in the regular season. But we do have one more category left in our... It's not really awards, is it? I mean, here, have an award for being flop of the season. Who's gone for who? Right. Manchester United. I mean, that's self-explanatory, isn't it? Are you gonna leave Bruno out of this and give it to everybody else?
No, I'll tell you who I wanted to put on there, Jim Radcliffe. Because Jim Radcliffe and Ineos have sucked the life out of Man United. They've sucked the life out of the whole club, really. I mean, the redundancies, how many jobs cuts have had. There's no spirit whatsoever at the football club. Then you go down to Amorim, and Amorim's took over, who's done a woeful job, who's done a worse job than Erik ten Hag. I mean, when he took over, his team were 4 points behind the Champions League spots. 4 points behind. Now they're 27 points behind. He's made them worse. So the club are in absolute dire straits at the moment, from Ineos and Jim Radcliffe right down to Amorim. The players are clearly not good enough, but surely they're a better team than fourth or fifth bottom. Surely a bad Man United side who have got decent players can finish halfway up the league. So that club is being run shambolically, I think, from the very top right down to the management and the players.
I'm going to go Arsenal's board. And I was reading up on the whole aiming to sign Ollie Watkins in January. And there was a big piece in the Telegraph about this. And at the first instance, it was kind of reported it was a 60 million bid that was turned down. Jamie Carragher also did a piece on Sky and on the overlap as well, saying it was nowhere near that. It was like 45, 50 million. Exactly. So it wasn't even 50 million that they offered. And they knew, they were pretty much told. I mean, you don't just bid for someone not knowing how much they're worth. It's like, you know how much he's worth. They wanted at least 80 million for him.
Yeah, right? Pay it.
Yeah, John Duran's gone. But they brought in Marcus Rashford, and Watkins ended up on the bench for some of them. He's an Arsenal fan. There's even talk that Arsenal were offered Ollie Watkins, and this was part of the articles from the Telegraph and from Jamie Carragher. They were offered Ollie Watkins by Villa prior to John Duran's move to the Middle East. It's the Arsenal board simply for not backing Mikel Arteta. Arteta has still not finished below the place he was the previous season with Arsenal. But right now, are they going to be second all the time? Is that going to be something that Arsenal are going to do? Get out, give the manager money, whether it's Watkins, whether it's Gyökeres, whoever it's for, Šeško, get them to sign a striker so that us, when we talk on these shows, can stop saying, what would Arsenal do if they signed a striker? 14 draws this season. If you make those 14 draws and 6 of them you make wins, right, which is doable. Now, 2 of them were against Liverpool. If you take 6 of those 14 draws and make them wins, then Arsenal win the title because 2 of them would be against Liverpool.
But apparently we're all wrong, and the manager and Arsenal know exactly what they're doing. But we all sit here and go, need a number 9. But apparently we're wrong. I mean, the indication is the last 3 teams that have won the Premier League have all had players who have finished top scorer.
Just
so
saying.
There's the clue. There's the clue what Arsenal need. They can't rely on Marino playing as a false 9 who's a midfield player. They can't rely on Kai Havertz, who's sort of a number 10 or a wide player or a player a little bit deeper, playing a false 9. They can't rely on Jesus because Man City give them Jesus because they were signing in on Haaland. So Man City give Arsenal some players that Pep didn't even want because he realised the strength of the players that were coming into City. These guys wouldn't get a game. And Arsenal went and bought them. So it's obvious what they need. They'll probably sign Zubimendi, who'll be a good signing. He's a very clever player, but he's another body in midfield. They need a number 9. They need someone that's going to put his hand up and go, do you know what? I'm the man that's going to give Arsenal 20 to 25 goals a season. Now, whether Arsenal got blinded a couple of years ago where a lot of the midfield boys scored about 10, 12, 15 goals and they thought they could share the goals around and that would be enough. No, this season showed that with Arsenal with a number 9 who could have had or could have fired them to a title, I still think Liverpool have went through the gears and won more games if they had to.
Yeah,
but it's obvious what they need. Staring them in the face.
And I didn't want to put Mikel Arteta there because I really want to see what Mikel Arteta can do with a main striker. And if he's got a striker that scores 25 goals and they still don't win the title, you saw they had the best defence in the league this season, but Everton were the only team that drew more games. They have to turn these draws into wins. And if they do so next season with a striker that's going to get 25 goals, that they actually open the purse strings and go out and get one, then I'm looking forward to the title race. And if it's not Mikel Arteta winning the title then he can maybe get criticised. Okay, that'll do us. There's our awards handed out at the end. A reminder, on Sunday at full time, we are live on ESPN FC with all the reaction. Find out who will join Liverpool, Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur in representing England in the Champions League next season.